listen. So cold, my heavyweight soul, so weighed down by the things that I know. And all told, I got too bold. Heart of gold, no, I do it like that. Like that. I do it like that. Like that. Like that. You gotta choose your battles and make them mean something. Sing great songs, keep that heartbeat bumping. When all else fails and you can't let go, the tinfoil hat does more than you know. So cold, my heavyweight soul, so weighed down by the things that I know. And all told, I got too bold. Heart of gold, no, I do it like that. Like that. I do it like that. Like that. Like that. Like that. My price, but learn no lesson. Like that. I do it like that.
Sent to the future from the year 2000 by a glitch due to the Millennium Bug, I'm adapting to thrive in the peculiar conditions of the 2020s. Join me in a multimedia extravaganza as we surf the World Wide Web, catch up on 2 decades of video games and mess around with creative tools new and old. I'm Millennium Cyborg, welcome to the new millennium. Alright. Just gonna be a quiet little Gorilla stream for a couple of hours here. I want to do more development style streams. I want to figure out how to get streams going that don't take a lot of setup, ideally. And yeah, I've been putting off figuring out this blur shader situation for long enough, I think. Ryan, welcome, good to see you. We'll see how much I can get my brain to concentrate, but I've got some copyright-free drum and bass playlist from Spotify going, and I've got some coffee, and let's see what we can do. Also, the first development stream using well, I don't know if that's true, but using my current setup at least, including the app. So, hang on. So the logistics of how I'm sending... Okay. When I show Unity, I'm using the transparency toggle, but then you only see the transparency behind me there. Okay, I didn't think about that. What I actually want to do is... I guess instead of using the transparency toggle... Okay. First challenge of the stream. So I've already implemented a separate toggle that brings in an external app in. I'll show you what I'm doing, even though it's not that interesting. Okay, let me dock chat in here so I actually see what people might be saying. I seem to end up redoing half of my stream setup, whatever I'm doing. It's very unstable. Okay. Alright, you can see Unity now. I'm covering up a bit of it, but let's see. Let's see. This is probably an okay place to put myself for now. Although that camera position won't save if I fiddle. And restart. That'll do for the moment. Alright. So instead of sending out a transparent background image to OBS and compositing that, I'm going to use the other output mode, and I'm going to send the capture of the application or game into my app. Now, previously I had that set up over NDI, but this time I need to set it up over Spout. So let's see. Where does that even live? The NDI receiver for the gameplay, the Spout receiver for the gameplay. So I'll turn off the NDI one, turn on the Spout one. I'll just, okay. I'm doing this. I wish there was a way to save changes to game objects in the scene while you have the app running. Alright. So now I'll enable I can't tell if it's enabled. I still need to send it through in OBS. So in OBS I need to create a filter that sends through the Spout source with the name Spout Game. Oh wow, my stream's really struggling here. Well, I'll turn this all down to 30 frames a second. How was I doing that? There was a correct way to do this. Here we are. Render frame interval. Two. And just to check, so if I look at OBS again, okay, so we're doing okay without the app running. App is running at 30 frames a second now. Our time to render frame is looking good again. A bit choppy still, but yeah, that's not too bad. Okay. Where was I? OBS. My app cap. Whoops. Yeah, I didn't realize when I'm right-clicking a scene, I need to be in studio mode. Alright, never mind. Capture's working now. There we go. Okay, so now... Okay, well, is that better? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It'll do. It is kind of funny. Ideally, I'd have my background showing behind the avatar, and then what I need is for the transparency to not affect the camera view, and that's possible, but just not something I'm doing right now. Okay. So, bring up Chrome. I want to implement I want to implement a blur shader for a few different reasons. I want to use it as part of my on-avatar lighting to have it responding to gameplay. And I want it as part of a bloom effect. And this is an article from 2004 on what was then called Gamasutra, now called Game Developer. And it describes how a glow effect was implemented. It describes a technique where certain objects, certain materials can be tagged as being a source of glow. They're rendered to a separate buffer, and then a blur is applied to that buffer before recompositing it. And it's got a good illustration of how we're going to do the blur. So your kind of canonical blur is going to be the Gaussian blur, which is a it's a blur where the okay, so the way that you blur, you have a source image and a destination image, and you're going to say for each pixel of the source image, it's going to receive contributions from several surrounding pixels in the source. And the amount of contribution and the area of pixels in the source image that you sample, that's called the kernel. And in particular, what this document is describing is using separable kernels. So that kernel is represented as a matrix, and in a separable kernel, the operation of the full matrix can be separated into two separate blurs, one of which is purely horizontal and one of which is purely vertical. I'm doing hand gestures that you can't see right now. Maybe I should have set up my Leap Motion. And the advantage of doing it in two stages that way is that instead of having to do an n by n square of samples, right, each pixel has to sample the source texture a number of times. Instead of doing n by n, you only have to do 2n, so n horizontal and n vertical. So it saves a lot of samples, and even on beefier hardware, it's worth doing it in two stages that way. Oh, and the general case of this operation where you take a kernel of values, a matrix of values, and multiply through that way, it's called a convolution. So things with lyrics are confusing me. There we go. So I've already done part of the work of creating some post-processing steps. I'm not using the Unity post-processing stack, however that works. I'm using a custom rendering pipeline, scriptable rendering pipeline, and all of the steps of the rendering are driven through this. So let's start at the beginning. So this is the most important, top level rendering function. It gets called by something else, but we say, okay, we need to render the scene for a particular camera, and I fixed it so that now it actually works even. Oh, that looks very weird. Hang on. No, that's not going to work. I can't show you that properly because my head's doing my head in. Hold up. Yeah, it's really doing my head in trying to figure out how to show you things when this is being captured through all kinds of places. Hold up. In OBS, hide the app. Hide the app. So now we just see Unity. Okay, here we are. Haseo, good to see you, welcome. I just felt like doing some development work, and so here we are. Look at that, I'm on TV. Whoa! Whoa! So this is the actual Unity scene view, and I can grab things and move them around. And that's being rendered through the same pipeline. Undo isn't working. There we go. Yeah, that's it. That's how 3D TV works. See? Oh, and I'm going to show them off again because I quite like these. I made little chairs. To replace the area on chair. I designed this from scratch in Blender. Kind of funky, Y2K-ish looking chairs. Alright, what was I even doing? I was talking about the rendering pipeline. Okay, there we are. I found some playlists on Spotify with some cool drum and bass music, but what really bothers me is when the music has lyrics. I can't think. No. Alright, maybe that'll do. Alright, so this is our whole rendering pass for one camera. Oh, come on. I'll have to create my own playlist of just the ones with no lyrics. Alright, so I've got like a little settings GUI object for fiddling with things live, but I also have things that are set up through my Stream Deck, and I send WebSocket commands. So all that is part of the initial setup beforehand. Other setup, the tracer buffer helps me debug individual rays. And then we've got the main ray tracing pass that actually does ray casting using the DirectX ray tracing API. And then we've got a final pass where I do all of my post-processing. So I render the ray traced scene renders out to a back buffer of up to 2 times the native resolution. And then I do a rescale, so that gives me very naive multi-sampling. And this is also where I do, so let's see, this one, right, is that rescale. And then we've got the pass where I composite in the game behind me instead of having it composited in OBS, optionally. And then there's the things that I've not implemented properly yet. Oh, and there's the final copy from a render texture to the actual camera buffer, just because for NDI and Spout 2, they don't want to access the camera buffer directly, they want some render target. I might be wrong, I might not technically need this, but it was convenient and seemed to work. So I've got all of this mess of things that I started and didn't finish. What I will do for now, I'll just apply a blur on top of, yeah, or just to do code to be done later. So I'm gonna add a new rendering pass, and I'm just gonna blur everything for now. So these sample markers help us then see in the profiling view what exactly happened. We're going to have 2 passes, a horizontal pass and a vertical pass. And in theory the main, so in theory, I should be able to set all of my just again trying different playlists. Alright, this one's by Stream Beats. Not exactly my favourite kind of drum and bass, I think, this one, but it's a bit too modern EDM, but it'll do. Assuming there's no lyrics in this one. We'll see. Alright. With too much confidence, I turned off my aircon before the stream, and I'm already feeling too hot. It's heating up. So in theory, right, all I need to do is render with so I create a new shader, full screen shader. I create a material that uses that shader, and then I render a full screen triangle using that material. I can then apply an arbitrary, shader effect. So what I need to worry about is my source and destination buffers, and also assigning the main texture. Yeah, actually, I did my stream yesterday with Null on Cable 2. I did that with the AC going. The NVIDIA broadcast filters that stuff out really well. I might go put the AC back on in a minute. So one thing I've not figured out exactly the correct way to do is setting the main texture for the shader. So I've been doing it doing it twice, once on the material, once on the render texture, having it set itself, setting it as a global variable. I'm not 100% certain the correct way to do things. This is the sort of thing I can't find good documentation on. So I'm not using the frame buffer directly, I'm using intermediate render textures that are allocated. Speaking of, did I not have a temporary buffer allocation somewhere in here? Here. So we're going to allocate a temporary buffer. So let me think. What I'll do is, so for example here, the game composite texture is the source and the destination is the camera render target. So what we'll do is, for pass 1, we'll allocate a temporary render texture. We'll go from camera to that temporary for the first phase, and from the temporary to the camera for the second phase. So we just need one temporary render target. Where does this come from? Lighting RT, get temporary, there we go. Another thing we're going to need is a render kernel. So, as I said, I probably didn't explain terribly well, but in theory we're implementing a blur that uses a square matrix to define the contribution of surrounding pixels to the final image. And because we're using one that is linearly separable, we can do that in 2 phases using this, in theory, the same array twice, but actually in the article I was pulling up earlier, they describe using potentially different kernels for the vertical and horizontal, non-Gaussian kernels, or combinations of Gaussians to achieve different kinds of effects. So we're going to want to pass that into the shader and probably I'm trying to think if I want to do it as a... Maybe we'll have a boolean for horizontal versus vertical. Could also do it by passing them in just as a list of coordinates, of coordinate offsets. Is that bad from the point of view of optimization? I don't know much about the optimization passes of a GPU shader compiler, so bool what's easier for me right now? Let's just say bool is horizontal. And then what will we have? We'll have an int for the size of the kernel. I'm not remembering the correct syntax for this right now, but let's see. I'm gonna pull these values out of thin air. So you can also create and in order to keep the resulting overall brightness the same, you want the kernel values to add up to 1. So I'm just making these values up for now, but my brain has been poisoned by a lot of C++. I'm still... Oh. Interesting. Can you still hear me? Yes, that all looks fine. So what's happening right now? Is it because I saved and it recompiles? Hold up. So I've got some kind of compile error perhaps? What's the problem with doing it live, I suppose? Well, you can hear me. Yeah, my avatar's disappeared. That's fine. Okay, interesting. Yeah, but as soon as I fixed that... Okay. Something's gone wrong with my UDP sockets as well. Restart Unity. I guess trying to stream using the same app I'm editing is hard mode. But if I didn't do that, I mean, I could go back to the PNG tuber or the VC face model, I suppose, but okay. Okay, things are working again. So, okay, so what have I understood about this so far? When Unity does its live recompile, something weird happens when it comes to the WebSockets and the UDP sockets that are open. And that seems, so it gives me an error in the log, and it seems to get unhappy about that. So what I want to do is disable somewhere in the editor settings. I think I saw it previously. Something about when it recompiles and tell it to only do it want to essentially not recompile until I press play again. Asynchronous shaders, yes, that's fine. Oh, the avatar seems to freeze while I've got any other tab open. So don't worry about that. Yeah, so the avatar only moves when I've got the game tab selected. Right now I'm looking at the settings. If I just move project settings here, there we go. Although that's a bit small for project settings. Yeah, I don't remember where this toggle is. I wanted to not recompile. Unity, don't recompile C# until press play. How to stop automatic recompilation. Edit preferences general. Auto refresh. Okay, let's try it. So now I'll comment this back in, but it shouldn't take effect. Okay, I'm still moving. That seems to work. Where was I? Alright, we've got a kernel. I need to set up some shader variables that will hold these values. What was the control shift dot is not correct. Okay, now I've zoomed in when I did not want to. The past few years I've used Visual Studio Code more than Visual Studio proper, so I don't remember. There was a way to search for a file directly by name. Never mind. So I'm looking for my shaders. Common and material properties. Okay, so a lot of these are unused so far, but let's just start here. So I've got an example of an arbitrary size buffer already. Structured buffer. Did I already have another one somewhere? Right, this one. I think. I don't know whether, because these structured buffers can be massive or can be, I guess, quite small. I don't know what the best way is of passing in a presumably small array in. I think I had some trouble with putting them inside a C buffer, a constant buffer, so oh, of course I don't need to put them anywhere around there because I can just put them in the actual blur shader. So what was I writing here? So this was just a copy paste of the resampling shader. I've got some unfortunate parameters to do with how I'm handling variable MSAA that I should try to clean up. I did clean up a little here at least, but it could be clearer. Alright, so instead of, oh, you know what? Let's keep that one. Let's keep that one. Because what we can use it to do is only blur behind me, right? The things that aren't tagged as avatar. So I can do that for a first pass, and then see kernel. Yeah, fake depth of field. And then I can't remember if I had any success with passing ints in. Let's see, do I have any ints? I do have int. Okay, so int kernel size. Right, let's see how I deal with these. So I make a corresponding ID for each kernel, for each shader variable. And then I will set those values. Let me search again for the depth stencil. So how do I fill the buffer? So that's inside the shader. Where do I fill that in? It's a set global buffer, okay. How do I allocate that? Compute buffer. I think one reason we're using this type of... I think we can probably only allocate the render textures during a render when the buffers that are backed by GPU memory. Bobadino, good to see you. Just quiet development stream today. But if you didn't see it, anyone who hasn't seen it, I encourage to go check out the stream I did on Cable 2 yesterday, episode 2 of the Are You Not Edutained with Nullcasting. It was lots of fun. And yeah, tomorrow, hopefully the usual futuristic racing. Right now I'm just trying to force myself to actually complete making a blur shader. My brain has not been cooperating recently. I feel like it's a small array. There should be a better way, but maybe not. So, okay, so we've got require depth stencil buffer, right? Allocates compute buffer, stores it away. Stores one per camera. And then also that way we're able to free them at the end. have compute buffer, blur kernel. I don't know if it's nullable. I'm assuming it is. Maybe that's another good reason to have a map. I don't know, maybe it's fine. Yeah, that's on. Let me give a shout out to Cable 2. Manual shout out. Very cool kind of what's the right word? Collaborative, bunch of weird streams, experimental streams. So, need to allocate my blur kernel. I don't know, I guess my question is, what are even the methods here? Mountain stride. Release, dispose is valid. What is valid will do. What? Require. Incorrect. Cannot apply indexing to compute buffer. Is that not what I was doing with the depth buffer? Sorry, the depth stencil. So I'm making a fake depth stencil buffer because I couldn't quite figure out how to make the real stencil buffer functionality work. So I've just got an arbitrary compute buffer that I'm reading and writing from that gives me stencil buffer like functionality. Maybe I'll figure out a cleaner way to do it in future. So where are we? I thought that for at least one of these compute buffers we were initializing them somehow. I'm not making Skynet, I'm just trying to make a shader that will do a blur effect, and I've got a few different things I can do with that afterwards. I can do a depth of field, I can use it to implement a bloom effect that is a bit, period appropriate, and I can use it to do various forms of fake environmental lighting based on the game, in the same way that I was doing it in OBS previously. So you just take the game output, you blur it, and then you can apply that as lighting to things in the scene, either in screen space or in some other projection into the 3D scene. I'm glad you believe me. Where's my brain at? Compute buffer. Set data. I mean, it makes sense that you wouldn't want to individually index elements in a GPU-backed buffer, because that would be a lot of overhead. Alright, and we need this horizontal variable kernel is horizontal. Are we going to make that? I think there's not actually a bool type. And I think I've ended up making my bools, my conceptual bools, into floats. Kernel is horizontal. Let's do it as an int here and see how it works. Right. So, finally the actual application of this. So this is just some scaling logic to access the stencil buffer. So we're going to say, let's ignore the stencil buffer for now, and we'll just say so we want I've made this hard for myself because I don't have a good pixel to UV correspondence. So we're doing this in what space? We're in camera space. Are we doing, this is, for example, yeah, it's in like the size in pixels of the final window. And so that's window pixel size. So we're taking in the input UV divided by the window pixel size is going to be the pixel scale. And then if kernel is horizontal, I equals 0, I is less than kernel size. I'm definitely a proponent of making things work before you try and do anything that fancy in terms of optimization, most of the time. So we're saying kernel I is a weight, so we're going to apply to a sample. So we're going to have a color, and we're going to accumulate samples. So the kernel is going to multiply the sample, and the sample what was it? Linear clamp. So we're sampling at the input UV plus I times px scale times minus what's going to be. So it's say 0 to 5. Or size 5, it's 0 to 4. We need to shift it to be -2 to 2. So 0 goes to -2, so it's -4 of kernel size over 2. Which is... wait. 4 of... yeah, kernel size over 2. Stride equals kernel is horizontal, then 1 0, otherwise 0 1. So the stride is a general name for a variable that tells you how far you're stepping in each iteration of a loop through some kind of array. That looks right to me. Ejector seat button. The crowd still demands an ejector seat button. I still haven't thought of something that I think would look good. I mean, there's the obvious thing, right? There's just a plain animation of the offset from the seated position, but I don't think that would look very good. You want sound effects and smoke and all that sort of thing, and that's a lot more work. A slide whistle would be good. I want to avoid, you know, a lot of I mean, not that there are that many out there, but VTubers like CodeMiko and Fofomit have these redeems where you can say make their head bigger or their hands bigger or something, and all kinds of things that are rather undignified, and that's not exactly the vibe I want to go for. So I'm still thinking in my head about things like redeems that will affect the environment, or things in the environment that reflect members of chat. That's also a popular one, right? You have, even among non-3D VTubers, having something in the overlays or environment that reflects individual members of chat and so on. So I'm thinking a lot about that in the back of my mind, but I don't want to do it the way other people are doing it. I want something that sticks with the vibe of a late 90s CGI cartoon, and has a kind of consistency to, you know, the physics of the world, so to speak, and things like that. Yeah. Still something to think about. Slime. Wow. Huh. Interesting. That would be especially fun when we have guests in, right? So on the Cable 2 stream, I had my first time having an in-app guest, although it was just a 2D capture of Niall's avatar. But having a panel of people with multiple people who can get slimed, depending on what happens, that could be quite cool. And I would probably want to implement slime as meta balls that would be the period appropriate technology, and we would ray trace that using assigned distance fields probably. But I found that design distance field, I did experiment with those for the terrain shader. It was quite expensive, but it might actually be cheaper for the metaballs, kind of, because you can extract, in theory, a unified expression. Oh yeah, anyway, oh, the music is too loud. Oh, sorry. Thank you for letting me know. I'll adjust it a touch. Yep, I'm off. I mean, this is kind of a very inefficient way of doing development. I'm just here to talk through what I'm doing, and then make sure I'm spending a bit of time working on it. Oh, a degaussing redeem, interesting. These are some very doable things. All right. This is the blur. I think that's all correct. My kernel is made up, but that actually shouldn't make much of a difference. It's a small blur, so it shouldn't be too much of a it shouldn't mess up the stream too much when we turn it on. We're still missing the 2 passes and the allocation of the temporary so we've got the blur kernel. We said the blur kernel. We need to set the values, right? So I need to say set compute buffer data. No. Yes? No. Set global buffer. Kernel. Blur kernel. And that can stay the same for both of these. Set global int kernel size. Global int is kernel is horizontal. First step, we have it true, and then second step, we'll have it false. Oh, sorry, 1 and then 0. What are we doing? I need to create a corresponding. So instead of this, I'm going to try doing blur rt dot set. Yeah, set global shader property main tags. So this will be blur matte. I've already made a material for this, but it might be We'll have to double check. Asset, set texture. No, that's not right. Main texture. Do I have to have... That's just the render texture. Hold up. This is all correct for the second pass. And for the first pass, we do it the other way around. The blur render texture is the target, camera is the source. Alright. Now we get to actually compile. So I'm disappearing for a moment. Well, now I don't know how to trigger the actual asset rebuild. Assets. Refresh. Okay. Shader warning. Implicit truncation of vector type. Yeah. There we go. Redefinition of stride. Redefinition of stride. Oh, that's a different stride. EX stride. These are not very well chosen names. Integer divides may be much slower. Where do I have an integer? Really? 2.0. There we go. I want a float divide anyway. No errors. There's a runtime error. Alright, here you are. Something's not set to an instance of an object. Getting a very long call stack. Set up final blit pass. Null reference exception. For which one? Right, the blur kernel. So it is a nullable type, I suppose. But I thought... Okay, maybe I just don't understand something about this type. Object of type render texture has been destroyed. Still trying to access it. Hold up, I need to double check my material. So we had a special material for let's see, how do I do these special materials? So we've got don't know, I think I do this in an awkward way. RP settings, here we go. Lighting, blur, matte, Gaussian blur. That's correct. I look like I'm fiercely T-posing in this particular view before the game is started. How is it giving me this error now? Object type render texture has been destroyed. You're still trying to access it. Something else is now. The stuff that was commented out was not tested either, so let's see. Let's just apply brain to problem. Render texture get temporary. I mean, I'm not checking the return value, but I assume I'd get some other kind of error if I couldn't allocate it. Maybe I'm wrong. Output target size, I mean, that's a local variable. Maybe I'm releasing, I mean, could be releasing the temporary too early, I'm not certain. I don't know if I have to worry about GPU fences and all that to correctly order these things. Tell you what, give me a minute. I'll be back in a minute, and maybe I will figure it out. Alright, noisy aircon is back on. Hopefully that will cool down the room in a bit. Yeah, commenting out sections and seeing if the error still occurs. I've definitely done that quite a lot when working with shaders in OBS because there's very little in the way of... I mean, there are ways to get a bit of a compile error out, but it's not straightforward. Let's see. Start by compiling out the whole thing that we added. Hold up. Yeah, that's what I expect to see. Yeah, the AC is amazingly loud. The NVIDIA broadcast technology is just magic. Finally, a good application of machine learning. Alright. So let's do an asset refresh. So that's all working correctly. Let me pull the allocations out of the sample begin and end. And then take just that first pass. Missing end sample, okay. That's a benign thing. Yeah, all of the compiling and GPU nonsense definitely heats up the place. So interestingly, that was the only error there. Is that still going to refresh again? Refresh and then play. Okay, it's happy with that. What could be the problem? Very interesting. Okay, let's see if we can find any compile errors for the shader. It's not complaining. It would complain here, I think. So if we don't have this pass, then it works fine. Well, there's all kinds of values that could be not correctly making it into the shader. So, kernel size, kernel horizontal. So let's just let's do this for a start. Instead of this, we're just going to sample. Actually, I'll leave this one here. Okay, so that should be a pass-through shader, effectively. Smoking head. Oh, various kinds of yeah, or galaxy bread, galaxy brain, and all kinds of things. Okay, interesting. So it's still, oh no, because I need to do my refresh manually now. Okay, interesting. Okay, we've got white where that was black before. No, like no errors. Sample input.uv main text. Okay, so the setup is probably wrong. Listen, that's how it goes sometimes. Like it'll be working. The last 30 seconds is when it'll all come together, right? If it does. Here we go. So, set texture of the main text. So that's the source, right? Can we see whether anything's being written to the blur render target? So if we go into the frame debug, so we've got mesh skinning, ray tracing, here we go, and then so okay, so this is what? Raw mesh. Why does it do weird things as I resize it? So this is, alright, this is our super sampling shader. Gaussian blur phase 1 and phase 2. So what I'm seeing here is that the input to that first call is all black. So it's not getting good data in. Okay. So that's the first pass. So we set these. So the material, we're setting the texture. And let me just compare that to I see. This is... No, hold on. Okay, so here we're setting the composite material. Game render texture is an input. And that's filled out by NDI or spout. So the main text ID... that should be the input. So the horizontal pass, the input should be the camera render target. performing the downscale pass. Okay. The exact functioning of the, the way that variables are bound for shaders is still mysterious to me. I feel like I've not even tried to look through, DirectX or whatever documentation. It's not set out in one place in a way that really explains how it all works in terms of the namespacing and the what it means for different materials to. Yeah, there's multiple levels to it. Actually, the cat-like coding blog is the best I've seen in terms of some of those explanations, but I'm still not certain. So we're saying set the main text texture to the camera render target, specifically the color, and this is a kind of redundantly doing the same thing, but for some reason at some point I decided I needed to do both. And then the render target of that shader is this. So why would this be showing up as some kind of nonsense? The camera RT isn't the true one. It's an intermediate render target. So there's not hopefully any weirdness there. Just do it 3 different ways instead of 2 different ways. See if that helps. Did I define blur kernel? So it should be allocated. So blur kernel, if it's not valid or allocated, it allocates a new compute buffer. The size is 5. The individual element size is the size of a float, and then it's just an immutable buffer from the point of view of the shaders. But we set the data there. So in Unity, we re-enable this. So here is where we do the downscaling. We can see the input makes sense, the output here makes sense. Don't know why it sometimes does this. Do I have to pause it? No. sometimes changes what I've got highlighted. Or is it because, could it be because it's a temporary buffer that's being released, that it's not giving me some useful information? I don't know exactly what the capture does, but here, like the main texture, the input is... Hold on, why are you seeing... That's weird. Okay, I see. Interesting. And the final shading is working fine, and the code isn't particularly different. So for this, we set the render target to the camera target. Oh, well, that's just a blit, so that's not using some arbitrary shader of ours. Okay, what if I don't use a temporary texture? How did I implement these? These are set up so there's one per... one per camera, which is correct. Oh, could that be the problem? No, the scene camera won't be rendered separately. I'm trying to think, is there something I can do to convince myself that the... So the sizes that I saw in the inspector were correct as I expected, 1920 by 1080. Here we do a sample of the main texture. Not much I can simplify there. Although we access this stuff, we don't make reference to it. I think the depth stencil It's just a global, so I don't have to worry about it being uninitialized or something causing weird errors downstream. And I release the temporary later and hope that what can I do? Command dot release temporary RT. There we go. Okay. I should be doing more of this through the command buffers anyway. I'm going to convert from render texture to int. Name ID. What does that mean? Shader property name. Shader property name for this texture. This is probably what I should be doing instead, but shader property name. Release temporary. Any temporary textures that were not explicitly released will be removed after camera is done rendering or after graphics execute command buffer is done. Okay, let's try not releasing it at all. At minimum, I'm hoping that this will make Unity aware of the contents of the texture by the time I'm getting a look at it in here. So okay, that's the game, that's the composition one. So I can turn this off and on. No? Oh, I guess it's paused. Yeah, the temporary buffer is still giving me trouble. Oh, hold on. Main text for the first pass, main text is indeed set to the temporary buffer, which is at that point has not been, wow, has not been written into. But it should be the camera render target, not the temporary blur RT. Oh, I'm commenting stuff in and out without doing the rebuild. Let's have another look. Okay, so this is what I expect because I commented out the right from the blur shader to the camera buffer, but now this time the main texture is correct. Why does it do that? I don't know. Okay. Okay. Does that look blurred at all? Is my blur too small? So I've changed it to not do any multi-sampling. Oh no, there's no blur because obviously oh, I forgot to undo this thing. There's no blur because I commented it out in the shader, but the good news is it's a pass-through now. So we can go back to here, to here. Oh wow. Alright, can you hear me? I don't know what happened exactly, but it might have been Unity recompiling something. Unclear, but something was suddenly chugging very, very badly. So I should be back now, hopefully. Stream status reconnecting. Okay, well, my stream seems to have died completely. Am I still online? Okay, I'll stop the recording.